Loki is a raven with a quiet way of asking for things. He doesn't rush. He waits and he watches, and then he leans in as if he's choosing his moment. Before he was safe, life seemed to have made him careful. He was already an adult when he arrived, with dull feathers and a tail that didn't look right. His eyes followed hands closely. Not in anger, more like he needed to know where they were at all times. He carried his body with a tightness, as if he was always ready to move away. He came into care because ravens like him don't always get a second chance on their own. An adult bird with visible wear and a wary nature doesn't easily fit back into the wild without support. The point wasn't to force him into being friendly. It was to give him a place where nothing would surprise him, and where he could exist without being chased by noise or pressure. From the start, the space around him was kept simple. Calm corners, safe areas, a routine that stayed the same each day. People moved slowly. Hands stayed low. When someone needed to be near him, they didn't reach. They just arrived, then paused, then waited. With rehabilitating birds, you learn quickly that patience isn't a choice. It's the whole job. Over time, Loki began to show small differences in how he handled the room. He was still cautious, but he was also curious. He would look longer instead of darting away. He would step forward, then stop, then step again. Not because he was brave all at once. Because he was checking again and again that nothing bad followed. His personality started to appear in pieces. He liked to examine things. He noticed new objects before anyone pointed them out. He would tilt his head, then tilt it again, as if he was measuring the world from two angles. Some days he stayed distant. Other days he moved closer, in a way that felt like he was testing a new idea. When his future family first met him, they didn't meet a bird who wanted affection. They met a bird who watched every movement. Loki stood with that adult steadiness, but the tension was still there. If a hand lifted too quickly, his eyes tracked it instantly. The family didn't try to win him over in one visit. They kept their voices low and their bodies still. They let him choose the distance. The early days in the home were quiet in a different way. A house has its own sounds. Floors creak, doors click, water runs. At night, there is movement you don't notice until you're trying to be gentle. Loki spent time in the safest places he could find. Corners, higher perches, areas where he could see without being seen. He moved more when the room was calm. He listened to everything. Then came the first tiny changes. A longer pause before he backed away, a step on gravel when he heard his name, a look that stayed soft instead of sharp. Sometimes a person would place an object nearby and simply leave it there. No expectation, no come here, just an offering of space and time. The family worried, quietly, the way people do when they want to do things right. They wondered if he would always keep that careful distance. They wondered if they were asking too much by hoping he might settle. So they kept the routine steady. They offered food the same way each day. They held their hands still, even when it would have been easier to move quickly and get it done. One day, Loki made a small sound from farther away. Not loud, not demanding, a short vocalization that felt almost like a comment. Later, it became something he repeated when he was excited, a sound that belonged to him. At the time, it was just a moment that made the room feel different. Like a door had opened a little, without anyone touching it. He began to approach objects with interest. Padlocks, clean equipment, small wrapped packages he insisted on pulling apart. He played the way many ravens do, with focus and stubborn curiosity. He wanted to understand what a thing was, how it worked, what it contained. It wasn't performance. It was simply him being himself, finally with enough safety to spend energy on something other than watching for danger. Food started to come from a hand, slowly, on his terms. Pieces of meat, scrambled eggs with smoked salmon, fruits he sometimes ignored completely, as if making a point that he had preferences. When something was offered, he would observe first. He would stretch his neck forward with a careful confidence that grew in small increments. Some days he took the food quickly and stepped away. Other days he stayed close for a second longer, as if thinking about what else might be possible. And then there was the first clear sign of affection. It happened without a big moment around it. Someone got close, as they had many times before. Loki leaned in, slowly, and touched his beak to the person's neck. Not a bite, not a warning, more like he was trying to find the exact spot, and then he held there, steady. He made a low sound, a short quah, almost like a breath that had meaning. He tilted his head and waited. It was his steady way of asking. From there, the routine began to include things that once would have been impossible. Loki accepted head scratches. He would close his eyes while someone rubbed the feathers on his neck. There was a softness in the way he held still, like he had decided that this was safe enough to enjoy. Sometimes he climbed onto a glove and looked straight at the person, then touched his beak again as if saying, "Keep going." Other times, he called out with his familiar sounds, not because he needed something urgent, but because he wanted to be noticed. Gradually, the home became his. He moved through it with less tension. He spent less time hiding. He started appearing during the day, not just in quiet hours. He learned the timing of meals and the rhythm of people moving around. He watched, then relaxed, then watched again, each day a little easier than the last. Now his peaceful routines are simple. He plays with objects like they are small puzzles. He steps up with steady feet. He eats what he likes and ignores what he doesn't. He asks for attention in the same gentle way, beak resting to the neck, a low sound, a tilted head, a pause that feels like trust. And sometimes, when he flies against an open sky and returns with calm confidence, that small gesture from the beginning feels even bigger. Not because it's dramatic, because it's quiet, because it didn't have to happen at all. At some point, the family realizes something without saying it out loud. Loki didn't change in one day. He changed the way trust changes, slowly, and then suddenly you notice you're living inside the new normal. That's how patience works. You keep showing up gently, and one day, the animal shows you they noticed. If Loki's small stories stayed with you, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps these quiet moments reach more people who need them. And as always, thank you for believing in small stories, told slowly, with care.